The movie Obsession shows what love is not. That's the entire point of this video, because even though this movie is built around a wish about love, it is not really about love. It's about obsession. That's why the movie is called Obsession. If this movie was actually about love, then it would be called Love. This is where I have a logical problem with this movie, because Bear wishes for Nikki to love him more than anyone else in the world, but that's not what he gets. Nikki does not end up loving him like he wished. Instead, Nikki starts completely obsessing over him. She becomes possessive, controlling, emotionally chaotic, and high-key creepy. Like, for some reason, she starts moving like an actual demon at some point, and I don't know how Bear didn't slap the crap out of her in some of these scenes. Like, I would have thrown hands just because of my fight or flight responses kicking in. So he doesn't really get love, and that's exactly why everything goes south. If she really loved Bear, then the movie would have been completely different, and it probably wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. So when I say this movie gets love completely wrong, I don't mean that the writers failed. I actually think this movie works because the characters reveal a counterfeit version of love that most people secretly believe in. Like, Bear thinks love means I want her, so she should be mine, and Nikki after the wish acts like love means you belong to me, so I'll do anything to keep you. But that's not love, that's obsession. It's more like lust, which a lot of men and probably women these days confuse for love, but as we see from this movie, that confusion can be deadly. So in this video, I want to talk to you about the problem with love as a concept, because everyone uses this word, but very few people can actually define it. Some people think love is finding someone who completes them, but wanting someone is not the same as loving them. Thinking about someone all day is not the same as loving them. So how do we know what love actually is? In this video, I want to define love through two lenses, using psychology and spirituality, because psychology gives us a good framework for understanding different forms of love, and the Bible gives us the highest standard for what love actually is. Once I define what love is, I then want to compare it to what Bear and Nikki show in Obsession, because once you look at their behavior through psychology and through the Bible, it becomes obvious what they have is not love at all. It's the dangerous counterfeit version. So let's start with psychology. One of the most famous psychological models of love is called the triangular theory of love. The basic idea that love has three major parts: intimacy, passion, and commitment. Intimacy is closeness. It's like emotional connection. It's knowing someone, being known by them, having trust, vulnerability, friendship, and emotional safety. It's the part of love where you are not just attracted to someone, but you actually know them. You understand them, and you care about their inner world. You see them as a person and not just as an object that you want. Then there's passion. Passion is the desire, attraction, romance, chemistry. It's the fire. It's the part of love most people notice first. And passion is not bad, but passion by itself is not enough to be love. Passion without maturity can become lust. Passion without truth can become fantasy. Passion without self-control can become obsession. Then there's commitment. Commitment is the decision to stay faithful. It's the choice to love someone beyond the feeling. It's responsibility, loyalty, covenant, the part that remains when the emotions are not exciting anymore. And according to psychology, different relationships can have different combinations of passion, intimacy, and commitment. If you only have passion, that's infatuation. That's crushing on someone, fantasizing. That's the person you can't stop thinking about even though you barely know them. If you only have intimacy, that's more like a friendship. You're close, you care about each other, but there may not be romantic desire or serious commitment. And if you only have commitment, that can become empty love. Then you have combinations. Passion plus intimacy can become romantic love. Intimacy plus commitment can become companionate love, where there's loyalty and closeness, but maybe not the romantic passion. And passion plus commitment without real intimacy can be infatuation. That's the dangerous one. This is where people rush into commitment because of intense feelings, but they don't actually know or care about each other. They're not grounded in truth. They're not seeing the full person. They just care about the intensity and the feelings they have. Then the ideal is called consummate love. This is where intimacy, passion, and commitment are all present together. So you have closeness, desire, commitment, friendship, romance, loyalty. This is the psychological ideal. But now compare that to Bear and Nikki. Does Bear have intimacy with Nikki? Not really. He just works with her, he likes her, yeah, he has feelings for her, but he probably built a fantasy of her in his head and doesn't truly know the real her. And does he have a real mutual emotional bond with her? Not at all. Because if he did, he would not use a wish to override her free will. And that's the first major red flag about Bear. Because if you truly love someone, you don't need to control them. You don't need to manipulate them. You don't need to force them to choose you. But Bear does. He wants Nikki so badly that instead of accepting reality, instead of becoming a better man, instead of having the courage to be honest and speak his feelings to her, he uses the wish. And that right there shows you that what he has is not love. It's desire, it's insecurity, fantasy, the need to be chosen. Now, does Bear have passion? Yes, he clearly has passion, he wants her, he desires her, but passion by itself is not love. Passion by itself can become infatuation, it can become lust, fantasy, fixation, and that's exactly what Bear has. He's not loving Nikki as a whole person, he's attached to the idea of Nikki loving him back, and that's a huge difference, because there's a version of attraction where you do not actually love the person, you love what they represent. You love the validation, the fantasy. You love the idea that this person choosing you would finally prove that you're enough, that you're worthy. And that's not love, that's your ego, that's your insecurity, that's wanting to be healed by another person. Now, does Bear have commitment? Not real commitment, because commitment doesn't mean saying, I want you forever. Commitment is not just saying, I want this relationship to happen. Real commitment is responsibility. Real commitment is sacrifice. It's faithfulness to what is right. But Bear's first major action is selfish. He makes the wish, completely removes her freedom. He tries to force the outcome that he wants, and that's not commitment, that's control. So psychologically, Bear is far from having consummate love because he has passion without maturity, he has desire without intimacy, he has fantasy with no sacrifice, he has infatuation pretending to be love. Now let's look at Nikki. After the wish, does Nikki have intimacy with Bear? No. She's not deeply connected to him in a healthy way. She's not seeing him clearly, not loving him freely. She's actually under a curse, so her affection is distorted. There's no emotional safety. There's not real friendship. There's no trust or mutual understanding. It's really more like a possession. Now, does Nikki have passion? Yeah, just like Bear, she does have passion, but it is very corrupted. It's intense, emotional, overwhelming, and intensity is not proof of love, because a fire can warm a house or it can burn the house down, and Nikki's passion is burning the house down. It's not ordered, not controlled, it becomes destructive. That's the danger of confusing intensity with love, because a lot of people think, oh, if my feeling is strong, then it must be real. But strong feelings can be real without being healthy. You can be intensely attracted to someone or obsessed with them even and still not love them. You can say, I can't live without you, and still not love them, because that's a selfish feeling based on what you want and not really love for the other person's well-being. Now, does Nikki have commitment? I would say yes, she's committed to be with him until the end, but this is not healthy commitment, because commitment is not saying I will never let you go no matter what, you're mine forever. Real commitment is rooted in truth and the good of the other person, so her version of commitment is possessive. It's self-centered, not about Bear's good, it's about keeping Bear for herself. So even psychologically, what Nikki has is not consummate love, it's not healthy, it's obsession wearing the mask of romance. And this is important because people confuse emotional intensity with love. They think if I feel it strongly enough, it must be love. If I can't stop thinking about them, it must be love. If I'm jealous, it means I care. They think if I need them, it means they're the one, but that's not love. Sometimes that's attachment or lust or insecurity disguised as love. Now, this is where the Bible gives us an even higher standard, because psychology can help us describe different types of love, but the Bible tells us what love actually looks like when it is pure. 1 Corinthians 13 says, love is is patient, love is kind, love does not envy, does not boast, is not proud, does not dishonor others, it's not self-seeking, easily angered, keeps no record of wrongs, does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. This definition destroys almost every fake version of love in this movie because Nikki is not patient, kind, self-controlled, or seeking Bear's good. She is easily angered, she dishonors others, and does straight up evil things, even delighting in them. So it's kind of crazy how she literally is the exact opposite of what Corinthians defines as love. And that's why I have a problem with the logic of this movie, because Bear wished for love, but got the exact opposite in a way. But maybe that's because his definition of love in his mind is what he got. We can see that Bear does not match the biblical definition either, so I think the wish may have given him love according to his own wrong definition than according to what love really is. Because as we see from his behaviors, Bear's version of love is self-seeking. If he really loved Nikki, he would have never made that wish, and that's the bottom line. That's the core of the whole video. If Bear really loved Nikki, he would have never made the wish. Love does not override someone's will, does not manipulate someone into choosing them, does not remove consent. Love with no consent is not love. That's selfish desire, and that's exactly why God, who the Bible says is love, gave humans free will and the ability to choose to follow him or rebel against him. That's exactly why God put the forbidden fruit in the Garden of Eden, knowing Adam and Eve would choose it, because God represents true love, and true love has to be out of a choice, not forced. Therefore, God gave them a choice, otherwise they would have just been mindless slaves. Whereas we see Bear did not give Nikki a choice, he turned her into a mindless slave. And the more the movie goes on, the worse Bear looks, because once the real Nikki starts breaking through and it's clear she's suffering, Bear still tries to make it work. There's a moment in the movie that's so crazy. Nikki breaks through for a moment, the real one, and begs Bear to just end her life because she's suffering so bad. He hears her cries for mercy, but instead of fully facing what he did, he just ignores it and keeps trying to preserve the fantasy. He ignores her suffering and cries for help, and he tries to manage the situation, tries to keep the version of Nikki that wants him, even though the real Nikki is suffering inside. And this is the most revealing part, because Bear does not just make one selfish mistake, he continues choosing the fantasy over the person. He chooses having her over freeing her, and his desire over her suffering. And that's how you know it's not love, because real love would rather lose the person than destroy them. If he really loved her, he would let her go, be free. Like you've heard the saying, if you love something, let it go. Real love would rather suffer than make the other person suffer for its own benefit. That's what Bear never understood. Real love suffers for those they love. Think about your parents working hard for you to pay your bills, provide for you. Think about what Jesus did on the cross, suffering for our sins out of love. In the Bible, Jesus says, greater love has no other than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. That's the highest form of love, to give your life for someone. Love sacrifices, protects, gives itself away. It's not just a feeling in your chest. It's a willingness to die to yourself for the good of another person. That's why parents will risk their lives for their children. A good husband protects his wife. Real love is not just romance, it's sacrifice, responsibility, self-denial, choosing what is good for the other person even if it hurts you. And that's the exact opposite of obsession. Obsession says you suffer so I can feel good, but love says I'll suffer to help you. Obsession says I need you, love says I'll serve you. Obsession says I cannot let you go, love says if letting you go is what's best for you, I'll let you go. And that's the moral lesson of obsession. If you actually love someone, you must be willing to let them go. That doesn't mean love is weak, it doesn't mean love gives up easy, it doesn't mean commitment means nothing, but it does mean that real love is not ownership. It's not trapping someone, manipulating someone. Real love doesn't force someone to become what you want them to be. Real love seeks their good, and sometimes seeking their good means accepting that you can't have them. That's what Bear was not willing to do, and that's what possessed Nikki was not willing to do either. Neither of them could let go. Bear could not let go of his fantasy, Nikki could not let go of Bear. Both of them were clingy, self-centered, wanting the other person for themselves. That's why the relationship became horror instead of romance. Because when love becomes self-centered, it turns into a prison. And this is not just a movie problem, this is a real life problem. Some of you are calling something love right now that is not love. You like someone, you want them, think about them, you check their profile, you imagine a future with them, you want their attention, their body, their validation, you want them to choose you. But ask yourself honestly, do you love them or do you just want them? Would you seek their good even if it meant you don't get what you want? Would you tell the truth even if it cost you the relationship? Would you let them go if staying with you was destroying them? Would you sacrifice for them, protect their freedom, put their good above your ego? Because that's where love gets tested. Love isn't tested when everything feels good, it's tested when your desire conflicts with what is right. Don't confuse obsession with love. Don't confuse lust with love. Real love looks like Christ, patient, kind, truthful, sacrificial, self-controlled, not self-seeking, not manipulative, not possessive. And that's why this movie is so powerful to talk about, because obsession shows us what happens when love is separated from God. You get passion without self-control, you get commitment without truth, intimacy without freedom, romance without sacrifice, and it becomes a nightmare. So before you pray for someone to love you, pray that God makes you someone who knows how to love. Before you can love another person, you have to love yourself first, and love yourself enough to be comfortable being alone. You have to be independent and not seeking love as a dependency to have another person make you feel good. Before you ask for a relationship, ask yourself whether you have the character to even handle one. Before you say I love you, ask yourself, do I want what is good for this person? Or do I just want this person for me? Because real love is not just wanting someone, it's not control, obsession, possession, it's sacrifice. And if you have to force it, manipulate it, control it, then it's not love. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about this movie? I think it was a great movie. I recommend watching it. And I think the lesson is very important, especially these days where everybody has their own definition and is confused about love, where lust and desire and selfish greed are running rampant and people are farther from the truth. I think it's important to understand what true love is and not be controlled just by our feelings, because love is more than just a feeling. It's actions, it's truth, it's like Jesus showed, sacrifice. So yeah, drop your thoughts in the comments, tell me what you think. I'll see y'all in the next one.